instead of labeling ourselves as flat earthers. We are free, we are awake, and we are rising.
Please understand that there is a group of humans that understand the chaos and deception.
Instead of trying to chase the rabbit's tail, we in this group dedicate our time to not participating in the New World Order's agenda.
Our hope is that you join us on all the social networks and help in this endeavor to separate the wheat from the chaff. We rise to the challenge of observing and learning the beauty and nature of the living earth all around us, stopping at nothing less than making positive change for our fellow brothers and sisters. Together in peace.
And learning the beauty and nature of the living earth all around us. We rise.
We rise to the challenge of observing and learning the beauty and nature of the living earth all around us, stopping at nothing less than making positive change for our fellow brothers and sisters. We use open source, live interaction of all truth and knowledge, with no bias.
We are free, we are awake, and we are rising. We in this group dedicate our time to not participating in the New World Order's agenda and dogma that is perpetually pushed upon the common man. Together in peace.
Together in peace. Please join me and Lori on the Flat Earth Conspiracy Channel live today at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we discuss the mechanics and motions of the sky.
Together in peace.
Yep. Together in peace.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, Lori.
And how are you, Mr. Ronnie?
Excellent. You want to hit mute?
Yeah, just a second.
Blah, 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 Mount Meru.
Okay, all set now.
Yeah.
Had to go it that way, and it never fails. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear. Bit of a storm approaching, but I think we're going to be able to push through.
Yeah, the sky and the weather happening together tonight, kind of ironic, don't you think, that we're going to be talking about what's going on up there?
Yeah, it's wonderful, and I'm just really excited for these times and this opportunity.
Yeah. So I want to start off this hangout by saying welcome everyone who's watching and who joined us throughout the show or hangout. Got to get over calling it a show because it's really not a show. We're not show people. But anyway, tonight's broadcast is just going to be Ronnie and I, and we spend a lot of time hanging out anyway, just talking about all of the new ideas that we have and brainstorming and all that kind of stuff. So tonight we're going to focus, or I guess you would call it a hyper focus, on the mechanics of the sky. And Ronnie's put together a nice presentation, and we're going to kind of just go with that. And then we'll just chat back and forth and brainstorm as we always do. And anyone who's in the chat who wants to throw any ideas or questions, then we'll try to monitor the best we can while it's just the two of us, and see what we can answer as far as what you guys are thinking about. what we're saying. So with that, Ronnie.
Yep. If you present me, I'll get started. So I guess we can call this sort of the Flat Earth Clues number 13. Um,
Okay.
we need to seize the time and make sure we continue to do our best. So if we could start with the motions of the celestial bodies and the heavenly movements that we notice above us, we notice that the stars viewed north of the equator appear to rotate counterclockwise. Next, we notice from the south, the stars appear to rotate clockwise. So the stars viewed along the equator do not rotate. They run in a straight line from east to west. Lori, if you want to read a bit here.
The sun, moon, and planets are seen to move along a fairly narrow band of the night sky, which passes through the 12 commonly known zodiac constellations. The lights in the sky travel from east to west, creating a circuit. The total length of the circuit can be measured as follows. Each light has its own path, displayed as running a course starting from any position on Earth, traversing 24,000 or 20. Is it 1,000?
About 25,000 miles.
25,000 miles from any point measuring forward and reverse, east to west, west to east. The circuit approaches from the east and moves to the west. Observed from any point on Earth, we see the dance of the wandering stars as they traverse the invisible path along which the sun appears to move, and which the moon and planets follow very closely, thus is known as the ecliptic, indicated by the curved yellow line in the star map below, is the path the sun takes to traverse 24,854 miles.
Okay, so I'm going to just go back. This basically is the printout of the ecliptic, the movements of the sun throughout a year. I'm going to just take my time and go back.
Okay.
So I think there's a little bit of feedback. I don't know if on your end you want to try switching a setting, and I'll keep going. An excellent approximation assumes that the sun appears to rise and set in the sky around a stationary plane called Earth. It should be noted that the brightest of all the heavenly bodies is the sun. The sun rules the day, while the lesser of the brightest lights rules over the night and is called the moon. To the naked eye, there are a total of 7 non-fixed lights visible in the sky: the sun, the moon, and the stars named Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, and they will appear to be revolving overhead, traveling from east to west. Now we set our eyes on the stars that we can call the fixed stars. The fixed stars create an imaginary bow or arch in the sky aligned east to west with the terrestrial equator. We call this the celestial equator. At the respective latitude north to south, fixed on their circuit, the stars in the north, looking north, appear to run counterclockwise, while in the southern half of the Earth's plane, the fixed stars run clockwise in the south. Their course is completed in 24 hours, and it is bilaterally symmetrical. The celestial sphere aligned with the Earth's equator east to west, and at the north and south alignment, we call this line the celestial axis. I definitely still hear the clicking. I don't know why. Yeah, I hear you clicking. It's okay. The celestial axis is perfectly aligned with the two most central points of north and south, the great circles in the sky. Crossing the equator at a 90-degree angle, the celestial axis is the line that the fixed stars appear to revolve around. Since the celestial equator is aligned with the terrestrial equator, the Earth's plane and the celestial axis is aligned with the center of the north and south celestial axis. We can determine our local, horizontal, and our pinpoint position using geographical latitude and longitude coordinates. Again, are you there, Lori? That sounds better. Lori?
I'm sorry, I muted me because of all the clicking, so go right ahead.
You want me to keep going? You want to read?
Yeah, please, keep going.
Okay, so in the night sky, the ecliptic is shaped like a sine wave, with its most northerly point in the eastern sign of Taurus in the summer solstice, and its most southerly point in the constellation Sagittarius in the northern winter solstice. So basically, this view is south of the equator looking north. Everyone can see, including Lori, that the sun will rise from the east. Correct, Lori? You with me? Nope.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm here. I just Jimmy says no pictures are showing, and I'm not really sure why.
You want to start again?
I have you presented, but let me find out why your pictures aren't presenting.
That's okay. We can always start again, and hopefully
Okay.
the people in the chat can bear with us.
Okay. Maybe he's not seeing it because of a delay, because he's in another part of the same house. So that's a possibility. But you're not presenting at the moment anything. Your pictures are gone.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Hey, we're just regular people trying to do the best we can. So hopefully other people can bear with us as we go through these times.
Okay. Can you share your screen again and start with the last image that you had? Okay. It's loading. Okay. I need feedback from someone that they can see the images now, because yes. Okay. Go ahead, Ronnie. Your images are showing now.
Okay. Should I?
Just go from where you were and where you already were headed. And if we want to go back to some images in a little bit later in the discussion, we can.
Okay.
So go ahead with the dialogue part that you were working on.
Okay. I'll go back to that. So the ecliptic is the path in which the sun traverses through the sky, and it is on a tilt of 23.4 degrees from our celestial equator, which is aligned with the east to west equator of the Earth, thus creating the seasons and symmetry in order to divide the north and the south and maintain equal divisions above the plane of the Earth. So as we can clearly see in the image, that the observer and his line of sight horizon, or circle of light sight, there are multiple different ways we can explain this, looks south and sees the sun rising in its most northeasterly position in the summer solstice and setting in its most northwesterly position. And the opposite effect, while looking north from the south, is observed in the winter solstice, as their same horizon, line of sight, circle of sight, body is shown here on this diagram. Everybody can understand that. We'll move forward.
I want to jump in at this point, and I'm just going to leave the images up there. Okay. But this was something that took me a little while to just sort of bounce back and forth in my head. And I can, now that I get it, now that I see it, I can understand why the sun looks like, to some people from their observation point, that it could look like it's circling. And the reason why that is because of this angle of 23.4 degrees of the ceiling over our heads. And I use that word. You can also use the word roof if you want, but it's like you live in a vaulted ceiling. And that shouldn't be a big stretch for a lot of people, because we have been hearing these terms from a biblical standpoint, the vault of the sky. But people have been thinking of it as a curved glass dome, because that's a lot of the imagery that they've been seeing. But instead, if you're able to insert the imagery of a straight angled ceiling, and as if you were in a vaulted church or a lodge of some kind that has a high vaulted ceiling, the 23.4 degrees is not the latitude or longitude that we're talking about relating to the Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn. This is actually the sky angled. Okay, all of the things that are in the plane of the sky, just like the terrestrial plane that we walk on, the flat Earth, the sky is also flat, and it also has an angle. So, that's my simpleton way of trying to explain this concept. So go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept in your mind. Trying to understand the angles. Definitely, in my opinion, we have yet to find physical proof of any half parabola or spherical semicircle dome above us. But what we do understand is that this representation and the tilt is definitely the sun moving closer and further away from the Earth at different places and at different times, thus creating the seasons. This is something that people like. Do you understand?
Yeah, and what kind of clicked with me when you and I were having conversations about this before was we went to school being told that we live on a ball and that the ball is on a tilt of 23.5 degrees, and that as it circles around the sun in its rotation 4 different times of the year, we can see it representing the seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. And the reason for that is because in my opinion, they were unable to hide this 23.4 or 5 degree angle to the sky. So instead of telling us that we live on a flat Earth and that the sky is angled, they told us that we live on a globe Earth and that the globe is angled. And so this, in my opinion, was one of those other reverse engineered ad hoc theories that made us buy into why we have seasons was because of the tilt of the Earth. And it isn't. It's because of the tilt of the sky.
That is 100% correct in the end of what you had stated.
Ding, 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 ding. What does she win, Johnny?
Sorry, and this is to the best of my approximations. I want the viewers and everyone to know that we're just regular people doing as much research and trying to understand, and we are definitely open source. If you can explain things or counteract anything I'm saying or come up with any viable answers, all we're trying to do is explain physically what we see. We're not trying to invent anything that's not what we see. Anything I believe that you go outside of when consulting or when believing in a dogma, you have to actually have physical, tangible proof for. To believe that the sun circles above us in a great circle is unprovable with tangible physical observations. So what me and Lori and Lawrence and Free Energy and many other people have done is just literally look at what we can see. We can see the Earth is flat. We know that water always finds its level. We know this. So next we look up to the sky. So this depiction here is a depiction of a person standing on the equator looking east. So if you could imagine the sun being tethered to the center of the plane of Earth, as it swung upwards in the summer solstice in the north, the sun rides along the line of latitude at 66.5 degrees. It does that perfectly as it swings its pendulum-like movement or its parabola of its ecliptic path. Above, during the equinox, the sun will rise due east and set due west, completing the arc or the bow across the sky completely over the Earth's terrestrial equator. And likewise in the south, the sun will swing up from the east, passing you, and then setting to the west at a 66.5 degree tilt in its most southerly path. So everyone's with me so far, right? Lori, if you'd like to read this, or I can continue.
The celestial equator is viewed as a great circuit on an imaginary celestial great plane.
It runs parallel with the Earth's equator. The ecliptic plane is inclined by 23.4 degrees with respect to the celestial equator. In other words, it is a projection of the terrestrial equator out into space tilted at 23.4 degrees. So that just reiterates what we've just said and shown is the angle of the celestial, or the path of the celestial equator is the same as the terrestrial equator, that one on the ground.
That's correct. So I'll continue. The ecliptic is the path that the sun traces through the sky. It stays on its path in the north for about 185 days each year, and in the south for 180. The sun in its apparent motion along the ecliptic crosses the celestial equator at these 2 points, one from the south to north and the other from the north to south. And these are the vernal equinoxes. This again is the ecliptic path, or the sinusoidal sine wave that you could produce when marking the sun as a star trail as it moves throughout the year. The motions of the sun.
Can you go back to that for just a second? I want to explain that from, my standpoint. When people see this sine wave, they think that what you're showing, or they may guess at what you're showing, is that the sun is going north and south in a wave over the course of a year. Correct?
Yes.
Over the course of a year. Of course, this is half a year, correct?
As the sun rises and it reaches its zenith point, they take a snapshot, and then you connect all the different snapshots throughout the entire year over the flat Earth, and that's how you create your sine wave, right? It's just a star trail. So a star trail is a section of images that are played together in succession to form lines through the sky.
Okay.
Right? So the ecliptic.
In other words, can we insert the word analemma here or not?
Well, it's very much
for all the pictures accumulated over the course of the year, when printed out together, will make a sort of figure eight, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
For the sun, yes, and the moon.
And as it states, or as I read, that it spends 5 days longer in the north, so you would assume that you won't have a perfect shape to your analemma.
Right. That's why the northern analemma is the loop of the 8 is a little larger than the southern one.
That's right.
Okay.
So we're just going to keep repeating, rinsing, and explaining until everybody is with us and we don't sound crazy. Or
we don't sound contentious against those who believe that the sun goes in a big circle around the plane, because we're showing you over and over again in as many different ways as we possibly can until you either agree or you show us where we're wrong, or where we went wrong, or where we're in error.
So, there's a bunch of ways that we can go with this. So, the celestial equator is lined up with the Earth's terrestrial equator, running from east to west, and the ecliptic is always 23.4 degrees tilted off of that. So as we move north or south from the Earth, if you were to divide the Earth in its equator line and we move north, the ecliptic will lower looking south in the horizon until it reaches you can't see it anymore, right? So, and it does the exact symmetrically opposite in the south. So there's also, we're gonna start to talk now about the celestial axis, which is lined up directly along the zero line, and it's what connects to the two seemingly star trail points. So I'm going to go back to a slide before, and we can keep going from there. I'm just bouncing it around, everybody. It's a lot of stuff to try and unpack. And then we'll go over some of these images after we've explained a few more things.
Are you missing a slide?
Nope, I'm here.
Okay.
now we're going to set our eyes upon the stars that we call the fixed stars. The fixed stars create an imaginary bow or arch in the sky, aligned east to west with the terrestrial equator. We call this the celestial equator. At the respective latitudes, north to south, fixed in their circuits, looking north in the north, the stars appear to circle clockwise. And while in the southern half of the Earth's plane, the fixed stars run clockwise, looking south.
Okay, let me interrupt there because you missed the word, and it's kind of important.
Okay.
Looking north, in the north, looking north, they appear to run counterclockwise, while in the southern half of Earth's plane, the fixed stars run clockwise, looking south. So in the south, looking south, they run clockwise. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's completely correct. The celestial axis is the connection of Polaris and the Southern Cross center point in the sky. Are you with me?
Okay, we missed some. So the course is completed in 24 hours and is bilaterally symmetrical, meaning each half is the same from side to side. The celestial sphere is aligned with the Earth's equator, east to west, and the north-south alignment is called the celestial axis, which is the opposite direction from the equator. The celestial axis is perfectly aligned with the two most central points of the north and south great circles in the sky. Crossing the Earth's equator at 90 degrees, the celestial axis is the line that the fixed stars appear to revolve around. Since the celestial equator is aligned with the terrestrial equator of the Earth's plane and the celestial axis is aligned with the center of the north and south, meaning at 0 degrees longitude, the celestial axis can then determine with the local, horizontal, or pinpoint position of all local geographical latitude and longitude coordinates.
That's correct. And again, so basically, when you're in the north, when you're in the south and you're viewing the north, the sun will rise from your right hand and set in your west. And it'll appear at 23.4 degrees, it'll be at its highest and then back again. And this is also symmetrically looking. So this is another snapshot of it.
And that shows the 23.4 degree angle of the ceiling.
Yes, the paths are fixed to where these arcs go across the diagram.
Okay.
So we could determine the angle of the stars that we see off of that, in my opinion. So when you're in the north and you're looking south, you're going to see the sun rise from your left hand, and it's going to set in the west on your right hand, and it's going to do the completely exact same thing that they see from the south diametrically. So this again is another image or illustration of what we would see from the north. The celestial pole is here on the angle, and we see the sun rise in the east and the north in its highest path and set in the most northerly of the west path in the summer solstice and continuing on. This is what we observe. So again, with this diagram, hopefully everyone is getting it as much as I can explain it.
Well, this is one of those things that, you know, if you don't get it right off the bat, you know, this is a new science or a new path of research for a lot of people, and especially those who came into the flat earth movement, as did I, as did Ronnie, being shown a circular map and a circular model where the sun went around in a circle and the moon did too, and so did the stars over your head. And that was what we now call dogma, which means that's what everybody's expected to know, and that's what everybody's expected to learn and to repeat back like you did when you were in school. The more you learn it, the more you can repeat it back, the more confident you sound when you repeat it back, the more knowledgeable you think you are, or those around you think you are in the flat earth movement and the flat earth community. What we are now attempting to do is throw that out the door and show you another option to look at as to how the sun, moon, and stars move across us on the plane that are not going in a circle. So if you don't get it the first time and you don't get it the fifth time, if you really care about finding the truth, until you get it and can say you either understand it or this is bullshit, then you need to keep after it until you get it, just like when you were in school.
Yeah, there's
but don't just take our word for it. We're here to share what we have learned and what we see. We're not here to ram anything down anybody's throat, and we're not here to make anybody feel stupid or unknowledgeable or whatever. We're just here to try to explain that these are real observations. So why'd you stop sharing?
just clicking on some images to try.
Okay, for a minute then, let me do a screen share, and
Okay.
I would like to show this video. Oops, can't do that before you hit the play button, can you?
Okay.
Okay, am I sharing the Viekas?
Present to everyone.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you
Clear.
see me now? Okay.
Loud and clear.
All right.
Okay, that was a good clip.
Okay, and why did I show that? Because it shows on the equinox that the sun in Vieques, Puerto Rico, is traveling along the equator in a straight line. And if you wonder what you were seeing there, play this back and you can watch the shadow of the pergola that's overhead. The apex of it completely follows a straight line on the curb in front of it for hours and hours and hours and hours all day long in a perfectly straight line. If the sun were curving, then the point of the apex would move forward and backward as it went across the sky, and it does not. So there is a reason, more than one, why they have equatorial sundials that are designed to work on the equinox, because the normal sundial does not work on the equinox at the equator. So go ahead. Let me present you.
Okay.
Okay.
1 second. Okay. Tell me if everyone can see. All right, you can see?
I can, yes.
Okay, so basically what you were demonstrating was the curb of the video was this straight line that we're looking at on this image for people to try to understand. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to continue
I'm going
on.
to mute go ahead and talk. I'm going to mute for a minute so I can do something behind the scenes.
Okay. So if we're trying to observe the stars in the sky, we can move to the fixed stars and the celestial equator and earthly equator. As an observer moves further north from the equator, the angle or tilt of the celestial equator will lower towards the horizon, looking south when moving north. The angle of the celestial equator tilts to the south in relationship to the plane of the horizon when you're moving into the south. The angle of the tilt is equal to the latitude of the observer. Thus, the horizon angle of the tilt is always, sorry. The angle of the tilt is equal to the latitude of the observer. Thus, in Hawaii, at 20 degrees north, in the diagram below, and we can also trace a line to the celestial equator tilted 20 degrees towards the south. The north center pole appears 20 degrees above the horizon due north, while the southern star pole is unseen 20 degrees below the horizon when at the north. I really mucked that up. I'm sorry, everyone. Basically, what I'm trying to say is from the straight curve that you just witnessed the sun moving south, you will see the same swoop through the sky. And the further south you go, the lower the swoop in the sky is going to be. And this is also the same for the fixed stars.
Okay, can I jump in here again?
Yep.
We're seeing visuals that are trying to explain a path that the sun takes over the entire expanse of the flat plane. And the only way that someone can draw a diagram of that is to put it on a small scale. And that is using a circle as the observer on the ground and using an arc because there's no other way to show it. The sun does not move in an arc over your head, although in reality, when you observe the sun rise and set, it sure does look like it's making an arc, but it's in actuality traveling in a straight line, both up and down and side to side, if that makes sense. But the only way to show it on the celestial sphere is in a circular motion, and that's why they call it the celestial sphere. But we don't have a sphere arcing over our head like this.
Well, the apparent path does do a parabola or a semicircle over our plane, but there's no fixed glass that it rides upon. This is
what I'm saying is it doesn't literally rise and set. That's part of what made them be able to sell us a globe, is that it looks like it rises and sets. And
That's
so
correct.
when you're using the word parabola, if instead of that term, we know that the sun doesn't literally go down and hit the earth when we see it set, and it doesn't pop up out of the earth when we see it rise. So the word rise and set actually need to be completely kicked out of our vocabulary, and we need to start using other words like enter and leave or greet and leave, because it is from a altitude standpoint the same height up in the sky. That's the part that I'm saying it does not make an arc. It does not rise up into the sky and set down back on the other side.
Well, what we can deduce, Lori, if I can jump in,
Okay.
is that looking at this image here from what we've been discussing about moving north and south and the celestial equator with the Earth's equator, and we see the stars rising from our left, running to the right, we know that we're in the northern half of the plane, right? So, and we can also determine by the tilt the latitude and longitude of our position. So what I'm suggesting is that the light or the source of the sun could be appearing to rotate the same way that we see the stars appearing to rotate above us. So I'm not saying that the physical sun is circling, but I'm not saying these stars are, even though they appear to do that. as you can see, the further north you go, the larger the circle, and the further south. As I indicated before, each circuit is a 24-hour period from start to finish. Are you with me, Lori?
Yep.
It's kind of difficult to wrap our minds around such things because, sorry, so if we're looking directly above our heads, we will see the celestial equator appearing to travel straight above us, just like the shadow did on the curb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the sunlight is being projected down on towards the atmosphere or whatever the separation is, we know that the further north and the further south you move from the equator, the greater the rotation. I'm just trying to keep it very basic.
The tighter the rotation on the two ends versus the larger the rotation at the center. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. And I can go into a star trail video. Hopefully, if I can pull it up here, and we can discuss this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I hope this might help.
The actual moving ones are easier to wrap your mind around, but there's plenty of, okay, first of all, we always like to sort of put this disclaimer in here when we show star trails. Many people start to say that these are fake and these are CGI manipulated and so on and so forth. The idea behind star trails is that photographs are taken of the sky intermittently, usually every, minute, 3 minutes?
It depends on how clear and how pronounced
right.
you want it.
And the idea is that the camera stays in a fixed position and opens the shutter, takes a picture, and then all of those photographs are put into Photoshop and melded together to create a non-stop motion picture of all of those individual pictures. Now, having said that, most of these star trail videos and photographs have been color enhanced so that you can see the individual star trails better and not have it just all turn into a mishmash. So from a literal standpoint of, are these manipulated? Yes, slightly, but they are pictures of stars. So that's really the most important issue.
Yes. So as you can see, Orion would be traveling through the sky here, and Sirius would be here, and so the tropics are in between these lines here, as we can see. And then what we were talking about, the axis of the sky is going to be from the center of the Southern Cross constellation, the Southern Crux, as it spins. And the opposite of the celestial axis, or the most northerly point, is going to be where the Polaris is. And this is observed. Now, this is one of the key problems for having a circular style dome, because we clearly have two different cones or whatever shape this is on the 23.4 degree tilt that we come up with. Like I said, we haven't figured out everything, but what we have figured out is that, these divide the plane into 4 geographical sections, the equator and the celestial axis, and they're perfectly aligned.
Well, and I like to interject my editorial opinion based on what I see and what I think I see, and what I extrapolate from that. And it's obvious in that picture right there that we have right in front of us that there is an angle to the ceiling. Now, the part that is difficult to try to describe in your brain is, do we in fact live under a pyramid ceiling? In other words, are there 4 sides? Is each side 23.4 or 5 degrees? And therefore, that's why we see the arc of the sky the way that it is. And are the poles, is it a vaulted ceiling and there's only 2 ends of a gable roof? Or do we live under a hip roof, for those who are in construction or understand these terms? These are questions that we have to continue to work on in order to make a model out of a straight sun, straight moon, straight earth pattern for the lights in the sky. So, once I got my head around that the ceiling is tilted at 23.45 degrees, then it begs the question: is that why we have a curve? Is that why it looks like it's curved?
Okay, so the ecliptic, so where the sun, the moon, and the stars travel, are tilted off of the equator and the Earth's fixed position. And the other issue that I have with this panoramic view is I don't believe that. Okay, I'm showing a picture of the entire sky, and yet I'm not going underneath a ball or an equidistant AE map. This is the other issue. If someone can represent,
right, and we have to also add in there that this is obviously done with a fisheye lens in order to get this large of a panoramic view. And the reason why I say that is because the surface of the ground is curved, and we know that it's not. So just like a panoramic lens on any camera, when you take a picture to try to get as wide of a photograph of the what we're taking the picture of as possible, that's what panoramic views are about.
But again, if we go back to what we were discussing before, people might start to understand a little bit more of what we were talking about. Again, let me just go back. Am I still presenting?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go back again. We'll continue on. So I'd definitely like to see if someone could physically.
Do you have the? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you have the picture of the celestial sphere, half sphere over the plane still, or was that a video? The one that Dubé shows in his video of the half sphere over the top of the Earth.
Okay, if you unpresent me, I'll get that.
Okay. Well, okay.
1 second.
One of the things that we need to keep our minds around is, yes, it's obvious that what's going on in the sky over our head is a repeating pattern. The only way that can happen is if something circuits back around. Now, when you use the word circuit, most people automatically replace that word with circle. And they are not the same word, and they do not mean the same thing. A circuit is, it has a start and a stop, okay? And yet it loops back around to itself. So you use words. Words are very important. You use a word like loop, people go back to circle. But a loop can go, in a lot of different directions, long, elliptical, and not completely circular. So when we look at the sky, when we were kids and we used to lay down on the ground in the backyard on a blanket, we were camping and used to watch the sky, and we'd watch as the Big Dipper would move across the sky. And one of the things that's important about kind of trying to reset our minds is to go back to that sort of childlike wonder and take it in, from an open mind standpoint, and try as hard as you can to kick out everything that's been infiltrated in there before. And if you can do that, then if you can kick out the circling sun and moon model that you've been, I'm sorry to use this word, but I feel like I can say it because I was part of the cult mentality too. The model and the maps and the visions that you were indoctrinated with when you became a flat earther And this is what you were shown for lack of anything else. And as time's gone by, certain individuals have started to question what they were presented with walking in the door, and question everything. And this is where we, Ronnie and I and others, have arrived at, well, this doesn't actually match the observation. And just because, Eric Dubay or Mark Sargent or Jaron or any of these other people say that this is what you're seeing, you don't have to just buy that and believe them. Go and see and check for yourself. Listen to other opinions before you consider yourself fully indoctrinated into just one dogma of what the flat earth means, because it is flat earth society type dogma. Okay, you got it, Ronnie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Excuse me.
Okay, you're presenting.
Okay, so as you travel southward from the North Pole, Polaris and its surrounding stars decline in the sky due to perspective. So at the North Pole, Polaris is situated directly 90 degrees above your head, but at the mid-northern latitudes, like here, it's about 45 plus degrees. That's what Eric Dubay is providing and stating, that everything is circling around Polaris. Polaris remains fixed while all the other stars rotate 24-hour circles around it. That's what Eric's saying. Are you with me?
Yep.
And Mark and many of the other proponents. So Polaris remains fixed. The stars are circling around it, and as you move out, they make larger circles, is what the flat earth proposes. So here's how they say our field of view works. Basically, the gray area we can't see because of our perspective. And then they start stating that we live under some dome, and that your field of view is canceled off again by perspective. But the problem is, when you look at this view with the stars spinning in a circle and the side view, we only have one pole projected. So as we can see this flat earth dogma spinning around us, we right away notice that there's only one pole. There's only one direction that the stars are spinning. Is that correct, Lori?
Yeah, that's not only is that correct, but that's a circle flat.
Well, it's incorrect.
Well, what you just said is correct, but it is incorrect. And what you're seeing here is the pizza pie AE map and model with the circling stars going over the top of your head with Polaris. The problem is that in the southern pole, you have Sigma Octantis, which makes that other half of the circle. And if you can rewind that and let that spin a little bit more, the other half of the pole then is where? Underneath that pizza pie on the bottom half. Where is Sigma Octantis? Where are the southern stars? Where is the celestial equator? It isn't here, and it isn't running around the outside of this ice ring. So use your common sense and question what people show you and tell you, and then you just nod your head and you go, oh, what a fascinating and pretty presentation, but it's still wrong. It's flat wrong, because if you look at this, there's two poles. The one on the left is Sigma Octantis. The one, if I'm correct, because this could be looking in the opposite direction. The one on the left is Sigma Octantis. The one on the right is Polaris. Polaris is stationary over the North Pole, or the top of the map, whichever you want to call it. And Sigma Octantis is the reverse pole star over the Antarctic bottom of the map. And that circling star thing, somebody can turn around and say, well, it's just a presentation. No, it's brainwashing. That's what it is. Okay. That's brainwashing. You don't have one pole star over the top of the entire Earth. People in the southern hemiplane cannot see Polaris. Correct?
It's 100% correct. And when you start titling things that, and this is the touchy area with celestial sphere, and instantly it becomes a dome and semi-plane, and instantly, people don't understand that this doesn't
Well, look
happen
what it
in
says right at
reality.
the top of the screen, Ronnie. It says the spinning dome ideology does not include a southern pole.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Now you tell that to the people who look at Sigma Octantis. Everything in the world isn't happening in the northern hemiplane. Okay. There's a whole big half a world going on below the equator. And just because 90% of the people in the world live in the northern hemiplane does not negate the fact that there are two poles. And the reason why Eric and people who use this model say that there's no southern pole is because everything away from north would have to be south on the A.E. Gleason map model. And I venture to say that if you tried to explain to someone how to get from Alaska to Dubai using only the words north and south. Oh, and west would be left, but that depends on whether you're above or below the equator, because then it would be right. Do you see what I mean? There are no cardinal directions on this map. There are no north, south, east, and west on this map. So, do I get a little ranty when it gets to this point? Yes, I do, because people are lying to you. They're telling you misinformation. Are they doing it on purpose, or are they doing it unintentionally because they've been given a stage and a microphone and an audience? You be the judge of that. That's up to you to decide. Are they lying intentionally, or are they lying because they just don't know any better?
Yeah, I could add in, Lori.
Please go on, because
The
I could
truth,
get all ranty on that.
the truth rises with or without subscriptions, with or without Jaron from Jaronism, with or without Lord Stephen Christ's Cell Earth. The truth stands alone. It is true. And what we observe is one infinite amount opposite of what we see in this depiction. And there's no one who can call themselves a true flat earther or someone who's a researcher can tell me anything otherwise. This is clearly nothing more than someone's fantasy, because we cannot observe this in our reality. We do not.
No, we cannot.
So I don't know if people are understanding it enough. I hope they are, because as you can
Well,
see,
I mean, given enough observations, given enough, lather, rinse, repeat, ability to look at this with a critical mind, and just stop watching videos. You've seen enough videos, even this one. Just stop watching videos. Go outside and watch what's going on over your head. And what's going on over your head is a motion picture of the creation of Earth and the way that it operates day after day, year after year, century after century. It's never changed.
that's correct. And it's not a ball, and it's not a circling Gleason's map. It's something
No, and it's not a
far.
geostationary with, sun and moon going around a ball either. It or geocentric or whatever they call that. It is a flat plane. We all know it because we can't find the curvature. People get, upset, and they call people like Ronnie and I and Free Energy and Lawrence, they call us, wannabe globers again, and that we're trying to debunk the flat earth. No, we're not. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find the correct model, because we know that the one that we've been given is not correct. Period.
But
No,
they
we're
have.
not trying to be globers, and we're not trying to help the globers. What we're actually trying to do is we're trying to prevent a train wreck down the road when Neil deGrasse Tyson Butt and all the other Brian Cox and all the rest of them sit down with a powwow with a bunch of scientists and put together an anti-A.E. Gleason documentary, or whatever you want to call it, and just blow that thing right out of the water. And it won't be any satisfaction for people like me or Ronnie or Lawrence or anybody else to say we told you so, because by then it will be too late to just, have a knee-jerk reaction and say, well, we know that's not really the model. We know that map has problems. No, the map doesn't just have problems. It's fatal what that map has.
Yeah, it's
okay. Go ahead.
So again, if the sun is traveling east to west in a straight path, these are the three positions we could mark its boundaries and its traveling across the sky with. Again, it'll be due east to due west at 90 degrees from the Earth's equator twice a year as it moves like this. I'd like people in their minds to imagine rolling up a fishing line or one of those electrical cord,
a reel.
A reel, as it goes.
Any kind of reel. A spool of thread. Anything that goes back and forth along the spool.
That's right. So it's traveling across or above our heads always. There's no underneath to the realm that we live in. There's no possible way that you're under a ball. We all know that the physics of water and the facts of density would prevent this to be upside down. So hopefully people understand. I'm not taking the time to start proving flat Earth because I hope that everybody has done their own homework. What I am showing is the actual observations from the ground, looking at the sky, what we physically see. Whether or not the sky is on a vaulted corner or angle is yet to be determined, but we definitely know that these are the ways that the sun and the moon and all the stars pass above us. Now, the fixed stars are the groups of the stars that I was showing in the star trail video. I'll go back to that again.
Okay.
So these are
fixed stars are also known as what?
The wandering, they're not, the heliocentric world will tell you that the fixed stars are because they're quintillions of light years away.
Okay.
But in my reality, in my realm that I observe, they are just above my head and they don't move north or south. They just travel east to west.
Well, what I'm saying is these are not to be confused with what are called the planets.
The planets, again, if I go back to the,
okay,
are the seven, I'll find the proper, I want to read it properly again.
Okay.
Because we're hopefully starting to make sense. Here we go again.
You had it. Mercury.
Yep. So the excellent approximation assumes that the sun appears to rise and set in the sky around a stationary plane called Earth. It should be noted that the brightest of all the heavenly bodies is, of course, you guessed it, the sun. The sun rules the day, and the lesser of the two brightest lights is the moon. It rules the night. If we're looking up at the sky with our naked eye, there are a total of 7 non-fixed lights visible in the sky: the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. These all appear to do that reeling motion from east to west over our heads, and this is what we can observe. Now, the fixed stars are the ones that I was just showing in the star trail video. The fixed stars create the imaginary, what looks to be a bow or an arch in the sky, aligned east to west terrestrially, and with its celestial axis lined from the north to the south.
And these are like Sirius and Orion. Those are.
I guess you. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
All of the Polaris, the Southern Crux, these stars, they don't ever go off.
They don't move out. They don't go off course. They do not. They don't twist, turn, up, down. They stay fixed.
They're fixed. So snapshots would just show them.
Right.
That's right. And the sun and the moon traverse through these groups of constellations. They're 12 and the lesser known 13th. And a snapshot each day would give us this picture
in
the sky. So again, we're going to go back to this picture.
So for those who are listening and those who are watching, if we sound repetitive, it's because we're cross-explaining what we're talking about with regards to different things like celestial ecliptics and celestial equators and star trails and moon trails and sun trails. They are different patterns and they have different names, but they are related in that they all make up the mechanics of the celestial ceiling.
Yeah, the sky, whatever.
The sky.
That's right. So,
and when we use the word ecliptic, you can replace it in your head until you learn it and until you're comfortable with it with the term path.
That's right. And it's divided by 23.4 degrees, with the center being the Earth's equator, and it's off of the tilt. The more you move north and the more you move south, the tilt will lower until it's gone.
Right.
So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I can keep. I guess we could go back to.
Well, what I'd like to do now is I'd like for you and I, because we've spent pretty much an hour talking about this. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like for you and I to just talk about why this matters with regards to first undoing the damage that we feel has been done with the circle concepts. Okay. And then second, why it matters that we learn and understand and agree that the sun, the moon, and the stars are literally traveling in a straight path across the plane. Even if they're making a circular appearance motion, they are moving from one side to the other side, and they're not going around in a circle. And why this matters is so that when we can, demonstrably agree and be able to nod our heads in unison, this is one of those things that is going to bring the flat earth community together. It's not divisionary. It's not dividing it. We've heard all kinds of people saying these guys are just trying, they're tripping, they're trying to break apart the flat earth community, and nothing could be further from the truth. If you go back and watch the beginning of this broadcast, you will hear both Ronnie and I say, together we're trying to, to rise, to bring the community in together as one in peace. And it is not because we're right, it's because it's the truth. And that is, nobody owns that. We don't own this. The truth owns itself. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like for you to just, stream of consciousness, if you will, talk about why this is important and what we hope to gain from it, as far as what a flat earth reset means, the hashtag that we've started using, and how, how this will help us actually move forward.
Okay. Well, that's a great question, and I'd love to answer it. So, Flat Earth Reset, to me, is a chance for us to actually take what's physically happening, or what appears to be physically happening, and explain it and understand it for the first time without Jesuits such as Robotham or Einstein or any of Copernicus or any of these other ideas, because they've all been, paid for, bought, dictated, sold, peer-reviewed, and broadcasted. What we're trying to do is share what we physically see and experience, like the Earth being flat, the horizon being always flat and at eye level. And we see the wandering stars as they traverse over our heads, and we don't see giant circling suns, and we don't see globes. I've still yet to see a picture of an airplane upside down. I've still yet to see anybody actually proving to me that there's a curvature or the actual supposed axial tilt or declination. How do you even have a tilt on a ball? Does anybody in the chat or anyone at home understand how that would work? Do you, Lori?
Can you repeat the question? Because I was trying to write something down that Tinfoil Hatter wrote in the comments or in the chat so that I could address it when we got done. So,
okay, perfect. We'll move on to that soon. So I'm saying, how do you tilt a ball?
How do you tilt a ball? You can't tilt a ball.
Well, it's wherever you are. You're always on the top, supposedly, with our dogma and science belief.
Well, I mean, wherever you roll the ball, okay, wherever point it's sitting on, the top's always on the top, the bottom's always in contact with the surface. So you can't tilt a ball. Now, in some people's mind, they could probably think of a basketball that has lines on it. Then they were like, oh, if you said it like that, then it's tilted. No, actually, it's not. The pole of the axis of the ball is still straight up and down no matter what you do.
Well, yeah, basically it tells me that they're trying to back engineer the fact that you're always standing level on the earth and it's always flat below your feet. So if we're constantly putting ourselves on the top of an imaginary ball, it's because you're not on a ball, you're on a flat surface. And the celestial axis crossing with the Earth's equator creates 4 completely geographically positional squares of dimensions. And we could properly map, navigate, and understand where we live using the equator and the celestial axis.
Okay. Now, my next thing that I want to discuss is the haha joke that everybody thinks they're really one-upping us and isolating us and making fun and mocking and saying your stupid Pac-Man map doesn't work, or how do you make this Pac-Man? And they keep using that term. Okay. I knew the minute the term ever got out there, because Lawrence threw it out as a joke term, because he found that map on one of Mark Sargent's clues, the introductory to the clues video. Nobody is cringing every time you guys say the word Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man and Mr. Pac-Man and Pac-Man map and all that. It doesn't make my skin crawl. It doesn't make me want to run away in fear. Run away, run away. It doesn't make me ashamed or shy or angry or anything. I'm completely unemotional about that term. Okay, and here's why: because it is an imaginary term based on a video game. Okay, so big kids don't use children's terms to describe reality. Okay, so in reality, the reason why that whole thing got started was because Lawrence decided to investigate every single map that was put out there as a projection of the globe, and to attempt to find one projection that most mimicked the reality, the observable, I hate that word, the observational facts that we can test and repeat over and over again about the realm that we live on called Earth. And of all of the maps and the models and the projections and everything else that he looked at from every place that you could imagine, but most importantly from the USGS, which is what Mark Sargent said the azimuthal equidistant map was the official map of the USGS. I don't know if he has taken that back at this point, but regardless, it is not the official map. But I digress. The point of looking for the most appropriate map that fits all the observations, like timeanddate.com, the latitudes and longitudes, the area of the globe that we know of as containing everything that has ever been discovered. I mean, it's the 21st century. Also, flights, distances, distances between airports, flight times between cities. All of these were triangulated, meaning 3 points, okay, from this city to that city, this airport to that airport, verifying the times, the dates, the length of day, all of those things. And the one map that came the closest to matching the observations of Earth was the Collignon map, Collignon, if French, and it turns out that it's a sinusoidal diamond-shaped map. Okay, and so that's where that came from, and that's where that started. And so in order for that map to work, to make a model out of it, would require the sun, moon, and stars either continuing on a path that Earth continues on, meaning adding time as the fourth dimension to the realm. In other words, we're all moving together, okay? Or some kind of a veil that time passes, the sun, moon, and stars pass through on their journey from the east to the west. Okay, Ronnie, I'm going to mute you because there's some kind of noise going on. The idea for this map was scientific. We have never created a model based on this map. And so this has been a challenge that we've attempted to do, was to try to continue with the observations and keep putting them together to find out if we could make a model out of this map. But my last thing that I'm going to say about it is no other model is dependent or required or necessary to remove the prior map from use because it doesn't work. In other words, if you're not comfortable with seeking the true map and you're more comfortable staying with one that is false, provably false, then I kind of don't see why you have a problem with the rest of us, or some of us, continuing forward to try to find the model that goes with the observations and get to a point where at some point, someday, when this thing does go mainstream, and it can if there's a proper map and model, that we're confident to go head to head with any scientist, any physicist, any astrophysicist, any NASA butthead, whoever, and argue it to, have a duel to the death, or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to put that out there again in this video so that, if at some point in time we can just reshare this video for what does it mean to be a flat earther from this perspective, then there, I said it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ronnie, take it away.
Yeah. If you present me,
you are.
Sorry, it's kind of hot here. So I've got a fan going and it was making noise, and I'm apologizing to the listeners.
It's okay.
So this is a video that we showed on the last live hangout that you had. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the Antarctic because we make mistakes. Everyone does. But it's actually the Arctic. So.
Right. I was the one that shared that, and I shared the wrong link for what I was meant to share. But turns out it was a pretty fascinating video, isn't it?
But one thing, that I'd like to state is whether you're at the north or the south of the realm, it's symmetrical, right? So the only difference would be the sun would be traveling, looking towards the equator from your right to left instead of your left to right. So here we are, and we're watching the sun and the beautiful colors of the twilight as it crosses the sky. And you're going to notice something that's just about to happen. I'm not stating that this is proof of a portal, but I'm just leaving this up to everyone else's questions and understanding. Now, right as the sun sets here, you're going to see a burst of light that comes out. I'm just going to right about here. As you follow it across the sky, it's so reminiscent of what we saw with the supposed lunar waves that such people pushing like Crow 777. It's eerily similar, and I'm not suggesting that the sun is traveling through a portal here, but what I'm saying is it doesn't match what I witness. What do you think, Lori?
Well, considering that, and we did watch this again after the hangout last week, and Lawrence was still on with us, after we had stopped the broadcast. And I would, the minute I saw that shock wave, what it looks like a shock wave, it reminded me of an old movie called Powder, where he was struck by lightning and this shock wave went out and went through everybody else. And I mean, it's quite evident that there's some anomaly going on there. And it could be some kind of cloud in the sky. It could be any kind of thing, but the timing of the angle kind of looks like 23.4 degrees.
Well,
I can't help but say that.
The other thing I'd like to bring in, Lori, is the problem with the AE map is the sun is appearing to go south here. Remember, we're looking north, and the sun is on its lowest path, so this must be wintertime. I'm just assuming. I don't know. Wouldn't it be summer in, what is the date on there? It's 5/19/2013. Okay. Interesting. So that's May, right? May 19th, 2013. So that's summer in Barrow, Alaska. Well, that doesn't match what the flat Earth proponents state. Isn't the sun supposed to be up all day? What months is that between? Well, I mean, it is creeping along the equator, or the horizon there, and but it, it's not going over your shoulder. No, it's not. No, okay. It's not. It's supposed to be going this way. And you know what? Every time I see that what looks like a shockwave go across there. It's just, I know this is time lapse, but it caught it. I mean, it definitely caught it. Whatever it is, whatever caused that. I mean, we see some really strange anomalies often in, looking at videos that people just catch by accident, So I don't know if you have that on, what speed you have that on, but it could go slower. Yeah, it was on the slowest setting. Okay. So so now let it play, and you see that the sun is coming around behind south. Well, there's no sun, but it's just the light. That's right. It's just, it's not a sun. But now that leads me to, and let's go here, because one thing I refuse to do anymore is I refuse to ignore information that comes in and observations that people have, especially if they have taken photographic or videographic, observations with things like, I'm facing in this direction. This is my compass. Looky here. And, I've had people say, don't listen to the app. Don't pay any attention to the apps on the phones because they're being, screwed with. But so that being said, when you hear people say, well, listen, hold on a second. When people say, listen,
you know, I live in UK and I see the sun come in from the north. Or you have someone else say, you know, listen, I live in Florida and I see the sun rise in the northeast and set in the northwest, and it doesn't make any sense because I'm above the Tropic of Cancer. Then you have someone else say, okay, I'm on the equator in Ecuador, and which, by the way, I have to say this. Somebody asked the other day, wow, isn't that amazing that they named the country Ecuador? How did they know that back when they named it that it was on the equator? Because, you know, had we actually mapped everything yet? And the answer to the question is Ecuador used to be called Quito. It was only in the last, I think, like 100 and something years that it started being called Ecuador. So just so you know. And but anyway, you know, said that this person said that they watched the sun rise in the south or south of them and set south of them. And I'm like, well, that's impossible. Because, well, no, wait. Yeah. No, they're on the Tropic of Capricorn. That's what it was. Sorry.
Yes,
And that
you're right.
they saw the sun set south of them.
And rise south. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you start to hear all of these different things, number one, yeah, there's probably some shills and some trolls and some whatever globers out there who would lie on purpose. But these are things coming from flat earthers, and they really don't have any reason to lie or to make something up, because everything is testable at this point. So when you hear about all these different anomalies, you have to say, well, this is irrefutable. You have to take this into consideration. You can't ignore it, just like you can't ignore southern flights from Perth to Cape Town, okay, which I watched a guy put up a video of one yesterday that said it was like 4,811 miles, and he made the flight in 9.1 hours, and it was nonstop. Okay, I mean, he showed the measurement or the instruments on the panel in the cockpit. It was a private jet. Okay, wasn't Qantas, but it's the same kind of plane that Qantas flies, a smaller jet. And so you have to say, okay, how do I make this fit? Because you can't just go, they're lying. You know, everybody's lying. Everybody's in it together. Everybody's in on it. No, everybody's not in on it. Okay. It's the same thing with the ice wall mythology. There's not an ice wall all the way around the perimeter of Earth. And it's not possible on for one thing. And for the second thing, then they add the layer of mythology that everybody hears when they come into the flat Earth community originally, that, oh, and the militaries of all of the countries who are signatories, with the Antarctica Treaty, all have, ships protecting the borders and the boundaries of Antarctica, except for these couple areas where you're allowed to go. I mean, really? Even I believed that for a little while. And then I finally asked myself, what? How can there be? I mean, do you know how many ships that is? It's supposed to be no militaries in the treaty in Antarctica? I mean, yeah, military planes and stuff are flying planes back and forth from one base camp to another base camp in Antarctica, but there's no military action in Antarctica or around its boundary. That's part of the treaty. And so the whole idea is please separate fact from fiction. Please separate fact from fear. And use some logic here with regards to, doesn't this sound a little hoaxy? Doesn't this sound a little bullshit? Maybe I should go and actually read the treaty. Maybe I should, instead of repeating and repeating these same mythological stories, it's become flat earth mythology. It's not based in reality.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
so what do you got, Ronnie?
Well, if the picture I'm presenting would illustrate the
Okay.
video that we just saw, so as the sun was moving across the sky on its most southerly path, or even virtually respective from the north, you would see it. The more north you would go, the lower the sun will appear in the sky, always.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that a circling parallel sun can't and doesn't do. People, what Lori just said was, you have to have information. If you're going to sit there and say the sun circles around you, take a picture every half an hour with a compass in view, and we'll know the sun circling above your head. But until then.
Okay, hold on a second, Ronnie. There's no picture. So
okay.
I'm not exactly sure why it's not presenting. Can you reshare?
Yeah.
Start again. Share screen.
It's not sharing.
Oh
yeah.
No.
Hey, these are just regular technical difficulties. Well,
I know. I'm just saying Jimmy said that there's no picture showing, and I was presenting you. So let's try again with the screen share and start again with that picture.
Okay, so it was where's the slide? Sorry, everyone. Again, we could see from the equator, this is the image we would have with the sun. Is he seeing it?
Okay, we're good now.
Okay, thank you. So these three spots are in concordance with the tropics of Cancer and the tropics of Capricorn and the equator.
Okay, let's pause right there for a second, just because this reminds me of the tinfoil hatter question that came up just a little while ago. So I'm going to take 113.5, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to minus 66.5 equals 47. Okay. So he asked earlier, he or she, I'm not exactly sure which tinfoil hatter is. So, bear with me. It seems like a guy name, but it might not be. She asked, is 46.8 degrees between the tropics. Okay. So 46.8 degrees by my math, that math I just did said 47 degrees between the two tropics. So yes, correct. Thank you.
Yes. It's 47 would be from
46.8 degrees between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Yes, that's the full travel back and forth of the sun from spring to fall, spring to fall and back to spring again.
That's correct.
Or
but
summer.
It still appears to rise north of east and set north of west in the summer in the north, and again the opposite in the south. And all of this information is completely observed. We're not pulling this out of nowhere.
Right. And to be quite honest, when people say, oh, that's government supplied information, you can't use that. Okay. Let's set the record straight there. If somebody can use SunCalc, but then timeanddate.com is not okay. Or if somebody can use the USGS map, but then somebody else says, no, that's not right. you have to cross-reference the observations with the technical data that we get from the sources that we have available, okay? And there's only so much that they're going to be able to fudge without somebody somewhere who's, sort of anal retentive or techie in their own right is going to notice that, this isn't right information. So if you go to timeanddate.com and you go to your city and you click in, it'll tell you, your location, where the sun is, where the moon is, what time it is, everything. And you can verify all that information. And even if you did it, like, let's just say randomly 4 times a year, okay, or even 4 times a month, you could check to see if there, if what the veracity of the information is, the truth. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I agree with you. And not only that, but it has to be repeating and it has to be observed exactly the way it is, because this is how humans have been able to predict eclipses. They've been able to predict the motions of the sky and the time of year and the time that you are.
Right.
And it in no way works over a dome spinning above our heads, creating a parallel circle 90 degrees from the observer. It doesn't work. So this image that's up is looking north from the south, and this is from the entire plane. This isn't reversed in Australia and different in Chile. This is, if you're in the southern side of the equator and you're looking north with a compass, you will see the sun rise on your right, set on your left. And it does the exact opposite in the north. And this is something that we can see it every day. People,
right.
and this is the problem that Eric Dubai and Mark Sargent, they just want to sell flat earth hats and books and Robotham's Dogma, who doesn't explain how these actually really work. Now, in my opinion, this is a picture, again, in the South, because there's not a lot of stuff about the South. You don't hear Eric Dubay or any of these other flat earthers talking about the South. It's because it doesn't work on their model. Looking north, in the wintertime, the green line shows when the sun would be at its most northerly path across the sky. You see that it's a lower rise and set. And this also completely debunks the circular AE map, because it wouldn't work. The sun would have to be circling like this, people, for you to understand what I'm saying. And not only that, but it travels due east to due west for everybody on the plane. No matter where you are, the sun will rise due east on a compass and set due west twice a year. And Mr. Thrive and Survive did start breaching this topic, and which leads me to wonder why he didn't finish, because there's no other conclusion that we live on a circular Gleason map if you understand the sun travels in a straight path twice a year from east to west. Just so if we're left with some sort of a curtain or something that happens that repeats the 24-hour cycle, that's what we're left with.
Okay, well, let me interject something here too, okay? Samuel Burley Robotham wrote the book, Earth is Not a Globe? Yeah, is that the name of it? Earth Not a Globe, under the pseudonym Parallax, okay? He's become the cult figure for the flat Earth community based on the repetition of his book and his writings and his experiments. Now, 2 things come to mind. One is, this book was written in 1881. That was 135 years ago. We all know the degree of technology that we have invented, increased, and added to our, bag of tricks in the last 135 years. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is, not one thing in the sky has changed in 135 years. The sun still moves in the same path. The moon still does. The stars still do. Polaris is right where it was. We're not circling, we're not spinning, we're in the same place we were 135 years ago. So it begs the question that what kind of observations did Samuel Burley Robotham actually make? And how did he arrive at this circling sun and moon and stars model when we can now watch a video of a beautiful hotel in Vieques, Puerto Rico, with a beautiful pergola and a swimming pool with a wall that perfectly is aligned with the horizon line of the ocean, and the sun travels over the course of the day in a straight line. So how did Samuel Burley Robotham miss this? You have to wonder, what was the intention of putting out this book with this model in mind? There's nothing new under the sun. Was it for the point of one day there would be a resurgence of the flat earth movement, the flat earth community, and that at some point there would still be a flat earth society? I mean, it hit the skids for many, many years and has been through several different permutations under the leadership of several different men, and I think maybe one woman along the way. And yet, this whole model and theory has perpetuated itself. Why? If Eric Dubay had not written this book and put this book out there at the end of, I believe, 2014, and repeated Robotham, as well as Mark Sargent, as well as, Math Powerland supported it. All of the top names in Flat Earth started making videos and models and everything else. Am I calling out anybody's name I haven't called before? No. Does it matter whose name I call out? No. The only thing that matters is that we, among other people, we're just 2 people, 3 or 4 people, but there's more of us, have put this out there that this is not true information and is not observable, testable, and repeatable. So why is it okay for these same people to just keep pushing back and saying, you guys are just causing division, you guys are just causing trouble? When did we start to use the word cult at that point?
Well,
I mean, these are cult leaders.
If I can
Go
interject.
ahead.
So
Please.
the video, hopefully Jimmy can see it. Hopefully the viewers can see this. If Samuel Robotham was presented this information as I'm presenting all of you, the only conclusion he could come away with is that the sun is not circling. A child could understand this. Jaren from Jarenism can understand this. And once you are shown this, whether you want to continue to lie and to promote a lie because it's a great fantasy, that is your choice. But I myself am here for the truth. Whether it's we live on a Mobius strip, I could care less what people think about what I care about, because to me, the truth is all that matters. And as you can see, the shadow casts a dead straight path across. This curve is lined up with the equator. And you could travel to this destination and view it yourself, or you can call somebody, or, do your own research. I beg people, I beg people to try and follow us, tell us we're wrong, prove to me that this is fake. I've been waiting to hear the naysayers.
Well, that's just the point. There aren't going to be any naysayers because they can't answer this. They can't rebut this. And that is why we finally just got frustrated enough to say, you know what? We challenge you. We challenge you to a duel. We challenge you to a debate. We challenge you to come on our channel and show us where we're wrong. But no one will take us up on it. All they want to do is make response videos and call us names and make fun and and say Pac-Man as many times as they possibly can in a 2-hour video. And that doesn't change anything. That doesn't change the truth. And until we give up on this fake model, we're not going to move forward. And the future is not going to be found in the past. And this is past crap. This is in the past.
Yeah. Well, if I could, still screen sharing.
You still are.
So again, using SunCalc, we see that from the south in Australia, the sun rises from their south and sets from their south. And this is something that flat earthers or the people out there selling this, making money, will not discuss. The fact that you would have to have multiple suns. If you can see the highlighted area, that's the actual apparent motion of the sun. This is impossible.
Well, not only that, but if there was multiple suns and somebody said, multiple versions of the sun, or somebody said, well, it's just the sun bouncing off of the dome, okay, that circles around the ice ring. All right. 2 things happen here. One is there is no ice ring. This map cannot exist because it's the area is 2.5 times more than the globe. People get mad and fight back, and they say, well, Rob Skiba said that this is an equidistant map, and if you adjust the little squares for an equidistant, then it works.
It doesn't.
Okay.
No.
Okay. What if it does work when you adjust the squares? Do you know what happens when you adjust the squares? You get a diamond.
Well, when you equalize them.
You get when you equalize the squares north and south of the equator, you end up with a diamond, and you end up with a pole at the bottom, just like the globe has. And this is where you have to say, I have to say, and I'll say it until I'm dead, the reason they were able to fool us with the globe is because the globe and the flat earth have the same observations.
Well, I no, let me jump in. Well,
except for curvature and spinning and all that stuff, but I'm talking about the dogma of the globe is the same observation as the flat earth, because the globe wrong. Is no. The wait, let me finish.
Okay.
And then you can rebut. And if I'm saying it wrong, then okay, I'm saying it wrong. But in order for them to fool us with a globe, they have to have. Well, see, you did it again.
Well,
go ahead.
The globe matches reality, whereas this flat Earth model has one pole. The only place you'd be able to see something even remotely.
I'm not talking about this flat earth model. I'm talking about the real flat earth model, whatever it is, matches the globe. The globe is made off of the flat earth the way it truly is. And all they've done is change things like the 23.4 degree angle of the ceiling. They in turn made it a 23.4 degree tilt of an axis of a globe.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? So
there is
you and I aren't going to argue about that point, because we've already done it, and we've already mashed these words, and we've already agreed that they make the globe assumptions fit the actual observations on the flat earth.
That's correct. I'm not arguing with you.
Fist bump. Here we go.
Yep.
Okay.
No, what I'm trying to state is, if you were to reverse flip out this unipolar Mount Meru type lie of a map, you would end up with something more of a diamond shape, with east and west lined up with the Earth's equator, and north and south lined up with the North Star and the Southern Crux. And
the equator is the widest point on the body, north and south. Okay. The equator is the fattest part of the body of the globe. So it is the fattest part of the body of the diamond. That's where it came from.
traveling in a straight.
Traveling in a straight line. And the distance between the North and South Pole is 12,500 approximately miles, which is the same that we ended up with on the diamond map. And so I'm not defending the diamond map as a representation of Earth. What I am defending is that the reason why it became clear that things are laid out the way they are on the diamond map and the globe is because that most represents reality.
That's right. I agree with you 100%. And if I go back to this one more time,
if we ever do have an argument, it will be epic, by the way.
Well, I'm not arguing with you.
I know.
I'm agreeing with you. What you're stating, I just want to make sure we get the words right when we state that the
I want that too.
Like when you state the flat Earth and the globe matched in reality, you did not mean the azimuthal circling sun.
No, of course not.
No, you're talking about what is closely referenced would be the free energy map, with where he's missing. Okay, now we're back to this star trail model. Is the celestial axis is lined up with the south and the north, and this you cannot have. We do not have this on the circling sun map. There's the north. I'm going to show everyone again, and there's the south, and that's directly at 0 degrees of a 90-degree angle,
and that's from a fixed point in the center.
Yes, and it crosses right across the straight equator. And we want to stress that. People need to understand. So whether it's a pyramid with 3 or 4 sides, 8 sides like the Pyramid of Giza, we don't know that yet. But what we're telling you is this dual pole projection does not, in reality, match this map. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. When you plot the sun's path throughout the year in the south, you would need the sun would circle like this, and then this person sees the sun circling like this. And if people aren't understanding that, we're going to have to keep repeating it. We're not arguing. We're just showing people that this is completely impossible. Again, you see what shape is this here, Lori?
Oops. I got off the page. Hold on. What shape is this? That? Which one? Point to it with your cursor. Oh, that's a circle.
Okay, that's a circle. Okay, now I'm gonna go back, because I know people like to see video as well. I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna play this shadow. Okay. Could you, if we were on that AE map, and this is the equinox, Lori, what position would you have to draw this curve to match that AE map?
An arc.
A circle.
An arc, because it's only one part of the whole.
Okay.
The whole equator. But yeah, so a part of a circle is an arc. So it would definitely have to be arced.
Or a hemicircle, or a rainbow, which
ARC, not arched, not arced, not arched.
Well, both, but yes. And
because the point of the apex of the pergola, the structure that is making the shadow, okay, is also straight lines. There's no curves to it either. So there's no optical illusion going on here. There's no fool the eye kind of thing. It is that, you can watch, even if you don't watch the shadow, okay, watch the sun, the light of the sun that's brighter on the left side of the screen than it is on the right. Okay, notice the dark blue over on the right side. As the day progresses, you can see that truly is sunshine. It's not some bright light. And the whole sky gets, brighter in the center. And then the whole thing reverses to the brightness of the sun. You can see it on the flat rungs of the top of the pergola, and you can see the shadows that it makes on the top even, and you can see the shadows running up the side of the inside of the pergola right now. On the left side, you can see the shadows are straight as an arrow over there. They're not arced, and they're not at an angle. Okay. If the sun were moving in a circle, those would become angled, those lines. They're perfectly level. You get me? You're in construction. You know what you're seeing.
Yes. The sun would have to be, this curve would have to be half of a circle, arced.
Right.
And it's not.
Or the pergola itself, if the sun were circling, the apex of the pergola would move over onto the sidewalk. Okay.
Circling.
Either out towards us or depending on, exactly where the sun was as over this thing, but it looks to be exactly over the middle of it. If it were circling, then the apex of that pergola would move north and south on the sidewalk.
Correct. And we don't see that. No, we see a dead straight path.
We also see a dead straight horizon line back there. And we also see a dead straight wall of the pool area back there. This must be one amazing place, huh?
Yeah, I really like those infinite pools. They're really cool when they're lined up like this.
Okay, so somebody was asking this. The Tropic of Cancer in Capricorn. Nope, I don't want that. Too funny. Of course, you look up Tropic of Cancer in Capricorn, and what is the first result on Google? The Flat Earth Society. For something like the Tropic of Cancer in Capricorn, Flat Earth Society comes up first. Amazing, is it not? Okay. What I'm looking for is the circumference. So I have to, why I put that in my search. Why would it not come up with that first? Amazing. That's just be like some real easy thing to just jump right up at the top of the search. Okay, we'll go with the Wikipedia circle of latitude. Therefore, the Arctic Circle, I want the length. Come on. How ridiculous is this?
Well,
I want the circumference number. I want the distance around. Come on. Is this how bad it is to look things up these days?
Yeah, I'll jump in with you too.
Okay, the distance around the Tropic of Cancer. Circle, no, unbelievable. There's got to be a land measurement. What does it matter with these people?
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops that you have.
There's a reason why they don't have this readily available, isn't it? That's very curious.
Well, here
23 north. Okay, it's giving me the latitude. It's giving me all kinds of things, but it's not giving me the actual. Okay, let's do this for serious dumbasses. Yeah. Length of the Tropic of Cancer. This is hilarious. I'm glad I'm doing this on film.
I have an answer.
Okay, what is it? What did you get?
The total running circuit at 66.55 degrees would measure 1,594.5 kilometers. Oh wait, I got to punch that in.
Oh, you got
again.
Kilometers. Okay, I got you. It's 22,859 miles. Okay. So 22,859. This is where we're going to come up with that whole thing about the pear-shaped thing.
It'll be 9,909.317,088 miles at the latitude or the spot of 66.55 degrees north.
Okay,
for the viewer that
Capricorn. Okay. Length. Isn't that amazing that I had to ask it like that? Is this like totally dumb proof or what?
That's the length of the Arctic Circle, not Capricorn.
Okay, so here we go. All I want is the length. Unbelievable. I can't be the only person asking this. There has to be more people asking this question. So thank you in chat, whoever said that, for making it so obvious to us. It's giving us it's giving me the latitude and every other kind of damn thing, but it's not giving me the length, the distance around. How hard is this? It should be within a few miles of each other. Ugh, this is torture. Probably for those listening, it's torture too, isn't it? Sorry, but I'm going to get to the bottom of this. This is something that needs to be addressed. Again, more with the latitude and the, okay, well, I'm on my like sixth site and nobody has just blatantly come up with it. But I remember when Lawrence was making the diamond map, that's why it was a squashed down diamond, because instead of a perfect diamond, because the distance between, let's see, the length of the equator was just under 25,000 miles. The distance between the North and South poles was 12,500 miles. And the distances of the two tropics was something like 23,000 miles. And that's why it became a squashed down diamond instead of a square diamond.
Yeah, if you can see the map.
But, hold on. Okay.
So if Lawrence wasn't on vacation, he could jump in and
this is a Mercator, right?
okay, let's just talk about okay, from east to west.
Okay.
The length of the equator line is then on a 180-degree angle traveling north and south to the celestial axis points. That's how we measure the distances, right? That's why Lawrence was such a proponent of it being a diamond shape, because this actually triangulates properly when we measure. Not this perception, but remember, we're also talking about the stars when we start talking about that, right? The angles that the North and the South Pole align with the celestial axis is the reason why. Okay.
Okay. Show me 0 degrees. Show me the on that map. Show me 0 degrees. Make it big again, please. That's the prime meridian. It's the one that goes right next to the UK there and right down through Africa.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry.
Never mind. This is not going to work.
Yeah, this is the wrong projection anyways.
It doesn't have anything marked on it, but that's okay.
Well,
the idea is it's split down the middle between, you have the 180 degree and the 0 degree in the middle here. And so you take the distance from across the equator. If I could present this, then I could put my pointer on it.
I'll send you
a
link.
The whole idea of doing these exercises is to reteach yourself things that you haven't learned since you were in grade school, okay? Unless you went on to become a professor or, did a dissertation on it or something, became a geologist or a physicist or something where these sciences, were constantly in your learning environment. Most people learned these things when they were in school, grade school, high school, and they crammed them in their head long enough to test and to get whatever the best grade they could get. And then they're like, shoot, that's gone. Don't need that anymore. Couldn't care less where any other thing is than, especially Americans, because Americans are, for the most part, a little arrogant. And, as long as I know where all my states are, which many people don't even know that, but then it really, if I need a map, I'll go look at a map to see where something else is, or I'll find it on my phone. And so they sort of forgot all about things like latitude, longitude, what's where, what countries are what continents are located on, what areas of the map, and which mystifies me. But then it turned out it didn't, that most people who were indoctrinated or inoculated with flat earth dogma, when they got involved, they didn't already know that much about where Africa was or Australia was. And, me included, because we learn all this stuff when we're young and then we don't care anymore. And so some of us didn't like feeling stupid. So we went out and relearned all this stuff. And it's a part of the re-education program of kicking out the old bullshit and replacing it with adult version of what you can see and observe. So when people say, well, it's not that big of a deal that, Africa is, halfway across the map from South America, when in reality, it's what, 4,000 or 5,000 miles apart, not 20 or something.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, you think you're so smart because you know this or you know that," I don't know any more than I took the time to learn and investigate and research. And if you've got kids and jobs and things that prevent you from learning any of this stuff, and you want to just regurgitate the same information that someone else tells you, then how can you possibly know if what they're telling you is true or right or correct or a lie? How can you possibly know? It's the same, you fell in the same trap that we fell in with the government telling us this, that, and the other. This is where space is, and this is where planets are, and this is where, the space station is. You would have no way to argue it, and unless you learn what it is you're arguing about. But those are the people who will argue to the death and start calling you ad hominem names and every other kind of thing, because they don't have the information to argue literally. So that is why we got frustrated a few weeks ago and started calling people out a few months ago, actually, started calling people out and saying, why are you repeating this stuff when you know it's not true, when you know it's not correct? And then instead they just call us names instead of calling our information wrong. You see, that's how the game is played. That's how the Globers play the game. And the Flat Earthers learned very well from the Globers when they first became Flat Earthers of how to argue and throw out red herring arguments and start ad hominem attacks and every other kind of thing. They're using the same tactics on other Flat Earthers as was used on them by the Globers. Go figure.
Yeah.
What are you showing now?
Well, generally, like the elite like to do, they set up scientists to mock us. And, if we perceive the explanation of flatlanders living in a square reality, and we don't actually listen to the dribble and drabble that this man is speaking, but we look to what he's actually proposing here, it clearly shows that it's a tesseract type of a system that we live in with a equal north and south dimensions. And then, as you can see, the projection of the square out, the tesseract projection, would be the reality we see in the sky. This is what we observe, and this is the only way that it's ever been tried to be explained, is that we live in a fourth dimensional type of realm. and people are still not willing to understand. I guess you're going to see the shadow here in a second, and it's going to show you see the shape on the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, the alignments are still going to match because it's the shadow, but yet they're distorted, right? As you can see, as it
Right.
grows to the sides. And this is basically what we're looking up at. We're looking up at the angles that this shadow makes. And we can't really understand this. We can only try to visualize it. So as you can see, there would be the north, the south, the east, and the west, and vice versa. And the sky looks to be coming to a point running along the equator, which we call the celestial equator. And then you would have another square turned like a diamond laid over top of this, and that would be your star trail alignment. The fixed stars rotate from east to west, and the plane of the Earth would be the squarish dimension, or the diamond at the bottom of the square. People need to understand that we're talking about fourth dimensions here. You see how he was showing the up, the down, the left, and the right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how he's getting into the fact that this is the reality that we live in.
And that's how they play the game. They show you the truth, and yet they explain it some other way. And if you're not smart enough to catch it, he's got a tesseract cube sitting right there, kind of hidden, behind the whatever that is he's got propped up against it. And
you see
he does talk about it at some other point.
His coyish smile and these mocking flat earthers.
I believe they call that duping delight, right?
Yes, but the reason is because he probably is one of the founding members of the flat earth. He just they feel that the regular people that we're trying to reach aren't worthy enough for this information. And this is what appalls me. And then we have people like Eric Dubay, who are completely lying to people, and Mark Sargent promoting it, sharing the Earth's guilty pleasure. There's nothing guilty about our reality. Is beautiful, and it's where we live. It's not a guilty pleasure. And if we don't try to understand the dimensions and the equality of the north and the south, the east and the west, and how we actually work, how are we ever going to move forward as a people? And lastly, I'd like to just state, I'm a strong believer that what you believe in helps to project what you are and who you are. So I'm not saying that if someone doesn't believe in God, or if they believe in this God, it's any different. But if you're projecting anger or contradictory information, you're not the kind of person that I want to be truth seeking with, whether or not that resonates with anyone else. But I see a lot of people that are just angry that are in this movement. I see a lot of people being put down. Who's to say that I'm right or I'm wrong or anyone else is? But if we have observable information in front of us, please, people, I beg you, do the research. Take the time. You'll be rewarded, just like me and Lori have been. I just hope there's people out there that can help explain it better.
Well, leave that up there for a second. Him holding it up. Can you rewind back just a little bit? Yeah. No, the one that he was just holding. Yeah. Okay. See, this is where I'm beyond a certain point of thinking that we live on some little pizza platter with a dome slapped over the top. And some people look at that as, oh, we live in this prison and domed world prison. And then another person will say, no, it's nice. God created us a safe little place to, protect us from all of the bad things going on out in the sky and the aliens and whatever else. And so two different people can look at the same idea and come up with two emotionally different concepts of what it means to them. Okay. I look at this tesseract cube and I see the sun as an external light moving around the outside of this thing, going through these prisms of glass, whether we live underneath a piece of glass or a piece of electromagnetic shield or whatever the heck it is, okay? But I see the sun moving around, and as it hits all these different angles, no wonder people in UK see the sun coming in from the north, and no wonder I don't see the same thing they see, and somebody in Australia sees something totally opposite, okay? Because the sun, the light from the sun may very well not even be a physical object. It may be a concentration of light that is coming from the outside in the firmament, and I mean in it. I don't mean inside it. And so I let my mind go free to try to figure out, you know, what are all these observations leading me to understand or to think, or what could it be, right? But I know what it can't be. It can't be this flat pizza pie with the sun circling over the top of it at a constant circle. And it certainly can't be where someone says, oh, well, the sun runs a tighter circle in the Tropic of Cancer, so therefore when it's running on the Tropic of Capricorn on the outside circle, it's going twice as fast as it does on the inside. Show me any kind of evidence of that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, the evidence that we do have proves that it's symmetrical moving north. So if we look at this tesseract and we take this point here and we cross it across to this point here, what you're having represented would be your east-west. And then you could take it from this cross point over down to here, and you could make that your axis. Now, it folds inwards and outwards in a cycle. So if the sun were being projected down, as it rose and set around this object, when you got to this angle, and you, like I said, the sun moves back and forth from the tropics, it would then be on this side again. If we're assuming that it's the sun that we see is just the point in the sky where it seems to be reflecting, the only problem with it being a glass sky is the east and the west, because they connect, right?
Correct.
And all this stuff is measurable. We can calculate distances.
Right. Okay. So again, when you look at an object like a tesseract cube, and you understand that perhaps this whole east and west thing is a tesseract cube, and then add the fourth dimension of time, that's when you can start to even open your mind a little farther and say, okay, so let's say we have this tesseract cube that has an infinite open end to it, okay? Then what happens to your Pac-Man then? You don't have to have any Pac-Man, right? You don't have, all I'm saying is that what the sun is doing is different than what is happening here on this flat plane. And we live in this dimension, but that doesn't mean the sun, moon, and stars do. We're just getting to view them. It's another reason why when people say, you know, oh, you watch these NASA videos and they're all fake because there's no stars. Okay, let's imagine that, yeah, if they wanted to fake stars, they could. It wouldn't be that hard, okay? And so why wouldn't they fake them? Because that's not really what's happening in observation. What's really happening in observation is that when you get up to a certain point, altitude off of the flat plane, you can't see stars anymore. The reason, in my opinion, why you can't, and you probably shouldn't, is because you have to have a certain amount of distance between you and the celestial ceiling in order to be able to view the stars. And I use an example of, let's say that you have a big flat screen TV in your living room. If you are over at, let's say, 23.5 degrees to the side of the TV, it's pretty hard to see what's on the screen, isn't it? In other words, it just looks like some light or maybe some movement, but you can't totally discern the picture. Okay. And so these are the kinds of observations, cross observations, that you have to be able to make to explain what's happening, what we're seeing, and why we're not seeing this. So are they lying that the stars disappear because of the camera can't catch the light? Yeah, they're lying. But what they're not telling you is you don't see the stars, because you can't see them once you get above a certain altitude off the flat plane, because you're perpendicular, whatever that word is, at the wrong angle to the ceiling. What do you think about that, Ronnie?
Well, I totally agree with you. And again, I could bring up more images and things for people to visualize. This is the type of tesseract almost that Mr. Sagan was holding. I guess I'm presented now, and you can see there's multiple shapes and things that are happening above us and around us and with us, where the most commonly things that we need to know about are cardinal directions and what we observe, and the stars circling and moving around. If you could see this diamond shaped map and then imagine that this map is the projection as well as the stars, it starts to kind of make sense when you go back to understanding that the reality might be much more different than the ball that we've been told. And what do you see? Do you know that these shapes are also involved with the pyramid and with Washington, D.C., Lori?
Well, yes. And one thing that I have to say is, if I sound at all defensive about the Pac-Man concept of the sun going off one side and coming on the other, I mean, it is kind of interesting that one of the things that led to that was the fact that if you go on timeanddate.com and the sun goes off of one side of the map, it instantly comes back on the other side of the map. Now, obviously, they're using a Mercator type projection, a rectangular map, to get everything on there, but they sure do show the sun and moon going off one side and coming on the other. Okay. Is that because it's just easier to show it that way because they can't show a wallpaper version where you just keep going, the map just keeps rolling over in one direction? No. The reason is because that's where the 180-degree international date line longitude is. And it only makes sense for it to go off there because that's where you go from one day to the next day. You just literally skip a day, or move to the next day when you go there. But one last thing about sounding the least bit defensive about Pac-Man, I'm actually not defensive about it. One of the things that makes me curious is why there's so much pushback about it. And when you get that much pushback from people who sometimes appear more than a little shillish or trollish, it makes you go, I might be onto something. Hence the reason why they're pushing back so hard. And of course, then they'll say, well, no, we're pushing back because it's just insane. Is it really? Show me why. Show me how it's insane. And then, I'll get off it. But no, there's no defensiveness about any option on the table as far as how our world works.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also like to state that this image is also current. This would be the Polaris. This would be the Southern Crux Center. We have the Tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, and we have the celestial axis lining up with what would be the Earth's equator straight through the symmetrically similar half. This would be the division of north and south and the division of east and west. And that's how we get these images. And again, if we pay attention to what the Baphomet and satanic cult have tried to occult the truth, you get this triangle shape. Now, this is what I believe, in my opinion, the sky and the motions of there are traversing in some sort of a triangular pattern, where when it reaches the one side, it appears at the gate on the opposed side. And so if you understand what I'm trying to explain with this diagram, and I go back to the pictures here, we can try to understand a little bit more of what, let me try to say. So try to see if he has a picture of the repeater. So that's back to the fourth dimensional thing. 1 second. Try to get back here. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay.
Have to bring this.
There's just a lot of different information that we gather from a lot of different places. So there's really not, there's no order to trying to figure out how to connect the dots. And actually, the more orderly you try to make it, the more illogical the more logical it becomes, the less likely you're probably going to connect the right dots together. Because some of the greatest inventions that mankind has made have been totally by accident, by crossing two things that don't even go together, like cockleburrs and fabric were the concept that came up with Velcro, or, the intermittent windshield wiper, or, just tons of things. And a lot of these kinds of inventions that where people connect the dots on unrelated topics are some of the more out of the box thinking, which is pretty much where I exist most of the time. And so when new input comes in, if you leave all your file cabinet drawers open in your head and don't shut them down and lock them down, then you have a lot more ability to instantly retrieve folders inside all of those file cabinets and be able to go, oh, over here. And, you kind of feel like Columbo in your head. But anyway.
Yeah.
So what'd you find?
Well, I'm just trying to bring up another reference to what we were discussing.
Okay. So you mean of the angles from, you were talking about Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. That's a good one.
Yeah, the Quetzalcoatl sundial on the equator, right? What I'm trying to show people, the shadows that are casted in their straight lines forms an 8-pointed star. Because of the given tilt of the celestial equator with respect to the plane of the Earth. Thus, the platform itself represents a reading of the celestial mechanics, detailed positions, and the solstices and equinoxes. So if I go back to that picture again, we're looking at this. Where we're looking at is very similar and reminiscent of what I'm showing. So, and then if we go...
Okay, hold on a minute. I think we might not be getting an image from you. Can I get a shout out from somebody, or maybe you want to start screen sharing again? Because sometimes it just drops out when it goes back and forth from presentation. Yeah, it says not showing. So
you present me now.
You are presented. So restart your screen share.
Okay. Should be sharing.
Okay. All right. Are we back again? Anybody? Can you give us... You should be seeing Quetzalcoatl. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Well, this is Metatron's
It must be a delay thing. I don't know what it is. Either that or back and forth from screen sharing to not screen sharing. It's not catching up something.
Yeah, it's the.
Okay, you're good now. So go ahead. I'm sorry to break your train of thought.
It's CSIS and all the people that Eric Dubé is protecting by pretending to be a anti-Zionist. This is their knowledge that I'm showing. So again, I'm going to repeat, if you see this point here, it's also depicted in the Quetzalcoatl sundial, and it forms, I'll read it again when it comes up, an 8-pointed star. The shadows form this 8-pointed star by the tilt of the celestial equator with respect to the plane of the Earth. The platform represents and also presents a reading of the celestial mechanics, detailed positions of the solstices and equinoxes, as well as all the movements in the sky. So if I go back to this picture again, I'm just going to show you again. Above us, we have multiple things going on in what I am believing. And this is why the diamond map and the 180 degrees works, because it's infolding and outfolding of time and reality. And there's nobody other than free energy and Lori and me and Lawrence that's willing to put our necks out on the line to tell everybody, hey, these things are happening and they're not telling us. So what do you think of what I just showed, Lori?
Well, I for one thing, as I was looking at that image of the not the Quetzalcoatl, but the
Metatron.
I see the diamond in there. I see the cube. I see the poles. I see the equator. I mean, I see all those things because I'm looking at it from a perspective of having done the research to that these shapes show up in. Okay. And so is it the dog chasing the tail or whatever, the cart pulling the wagon or the wagon pulling the horse pulling the cart or the cart pulling the horse? The idea is just cross-referencing as many different kinds of things. He's free energy tries to explain the fourth dimension with regards to the shape. Okay. The fourth dimension is almost impossible for most people to wrap their minds around, other than the fact that they really can understand that it is time inserted, or overlaid into any kind of a 1 or 3 dimensional object. Okay. And so when I see the sun go over, I see time. I don't necessarily just see the sun. I see time. And, there's so many other things that are happening right now with, oh my God, things like the Mandela effect kicked in. Okay. And people are saying, oh, there's another dimension and there's a parallel dimension. And I must have come from there because I see or remember things differently than somebody else does or whatever. I'm not going to say that that's not a possibility, but I am going to say that I think that is a possibility that this idea has been brought up at this particular time because some of us are getting closer and closer every day to understanding time and how it can work on our physical plane. And I don't have any problem at all with thinking that the earth I live on is like a canoe floating down a bigger river. And that we're moving through time. And people say, oh, there you go. You're talking about moving. We don't spin. We don't move. No, not with relation to, what's going on over our heads. No, we're not. But there has to be a reason why in all of the years that everybody has been using the sun, the moon, and the stars to navigate with and to locate things and to be able to tell time, date, years, months, all of that is because it's fixed with us. It's going with us and wherever we're going. And that would be time.
Yes. I totally agree with you. And I think all the evidence is laid out. It's with us. We understand, as you can see here with the overlay of DC, that the Masons and other people definitely knew totally what this really is. They laid this thing out. I mean, this whole city was designed and laid out. There's a reason why they call it the District of Columbia. Right? So and people don't understand that the sky is also doing the same thing that what we're showing here. And you can see the way that they've laid it out. I don't think they did it perfectly. I'm sorry. I'm not trying. I don't think anybody's
no, not
perfect.
Perfectly, but as close as they could with land under a celestial tilted You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that they were unable to put on a one-dimensional surface, right?
Yeah, there were some issues with the topography of the land and some mistakes that were made but you could still see the
intent is there. Yeah.
They darn near nailed it. But
yeah,
they
near nailed it is right.
But you'll notice with places in Australia that are aligned with these types of things, they've all been moved, they've been distorted, they've been hid. And see, again,
well, Philip, that was on a few like a month ago, a few weeks ago. The Philip from Russia has shown me many, or I think he showed on the show that we did with him, or the one after, showed all of those places in Russia that were these perfectly shaped star-shaped buildings that used to exist, or I think maybe a couple of them still do, but they've made them into something else and sort of diminished their importance, I guess.
So as we can read here, the lines that bisect the angles of equilateral triangles also bisect the opposite sides. As the angles are all 60 degrees in that triangle, the diagonals generate 30-degree angles. When the equilateral triangle with its diagonal is shortened so that the base of the angle is 52 degrees, the diagonals become plus 23. Exactly like the tropics that we have on the Earth. The Great Pyramid is located at 30 degrees north latitude and has a degree angle of 52 at its base. And basically, they're starting to show us that this is our reality. That, like, if people don't, I don't know if I've explained it properly. Again, with the tropics, the celestial axis, and the motions of the heavenly bodies around it. And if, like,
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're talking sacred geometry, and
well, I'm just talking what it is. I don't care about whose cult you were in.
Well,
where,
I mean, that's why these things were occulted, hidden. That's all that means. The occult means hidden, and
that's right.
People go, "Ooh, that's a cult." We've been trained over time. Yeah, that's another one of the biggies right there. That room explains a whole lot of things.
If you're willing to
look at what it's saying and relate it. But yeah, there's all kinds of things that are coming clearer because people are opening their minds. And I have a feeling that we're due for a big reset sometime soon. And I think that, they had to give us the internet in order to track us. They needed it for their purposes, but we use it for our purposes. And when you lose control of something, then you do. And they're getting pretty close to losing control of it. And so it wouldn't surprise me if anytime soon they didn't start scrubbing all kinds of stuff off the internet, because people have uploaded way more than they wanted, I'm sure, onto the internet for people to find if you know what you're looking for. Unfortunately, I was just looking for the circumference of the tropics and couldn't freaking find it. And I think that says loads right there. I mean, that should be something that just should be like first grade level. But here's the thing. Here's all these people loading all these things up there, and it doesn't take long for human consciousness to be able to pick up on patterns and connect dots. And that's why I say I don't think it'll be long before there'll be a reset. They're already talking about completely controlling the internet, and I'm surprised it's been left to go crazy this long.
Well, as you can see, the image that's on the screen, I hopefully if Jimmy could let us know that it's still presenting, if he's still watching.
Yeah,
Thanks,
he is.
Jimmy.
He would say that he's not.
Big share. Oh, it is presenting?
Yeah, it is. He would say he would. He's in the other room. He would yell at me if it's not.
Okay. Awesome. The big
What he's
shout
been
out to
doing
Jim.
all night. That's how I
Big,
know.
big shout
We're
out to
talking
Jimmy.
low tech here, okay?
So if you take if you take the scriptures, I don't care if you take the King, any Bible you want, you take the scriptures and you lay out the way that the Creator instructed the people writing the scriptures to lay out the camps that were in the desert to create the Holy of Holies, which in my opinion is the earth. So what we're seeing here is a cross that's been laid out, and it depicts the north and the south, the east and the west. It shows the path from right to left and left to right, as you can see. It has gates. It has all of the 12 tribes of Israel depicted in a cross. Now, also, there was more biblical understanding that came with that, as well as other images. Everything that we find, it has to be equal. And that's another reason why this flat earth, it's just not possible to have. If the sun was circling, we would never have shadows that cast straight lines. If people still don't understand that, we're just going to have to keep bringing it home. But this is the depiction on a Masonic or Holy Church floor where they perform their ceremonies that perfectly dictate the paths of the 7 celestial bodies, the wandering stars in the sky. This is what we get. We got the tropics and everything. So you cannot plot this out above this map. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry if people don't understand it. We're going to keep saying it. And if Eric Dubay and all the other names, without mention, want to keep promoting the lie, you cannot. One last time, and then I'll give it back to you, Lori. If the sun was circling, how would you ever have anything match a straight as an arrow path that we can see the shadows as we played in the beginning?
Right. Okay. Well, I think we've gone over a lot of information. I think this is one of those videos that we could easily cut up into some smaller presentations. And I commend you very much, and thank you, Ronnie, for all of the hard work that you've been doing over the last year or whatever, but specifically over the last several months. And I find all of this stuff so fascinating. And even in and during my frustration points where, I go in my group or different groups on Facebook and I might go in one and somebody will say, well, Lori and Lawrence and Ronnie and those guys, boy, they're really doing some good work and they're putting out some good stuff. And you feel like, oh, finally, they're appreciating what we're saying. And then you go in another group and somebody's tagged you in a really crappy post that says you've obviously lost your mind and become a glober and totally support the globalists or whatever. And I think, how could you get that out of what we're trying to say here? I mean, do we have to say we're flat earthers, but, and sound like Mark's butt and sound like Mark Sargent, and then say, okay, but we're not circle earthers, okay, and we're not domers, and then it becomes, are you the one calling out all of this division and all of these different camps, or is it people putting you, ostracizing you and fringing you out to the outside of the circle, and making you feel like you're the bad guy or you're inferior because you're questioning the dogma? And if you go by the concept of question everything, which is what critical thinking is, question everything, including what you just questioned a month ago, okay? Because every time you get some new information, you have to go back and you have to relook at your assessments and your opinions that you drew a month ago, and you thought, okay, I got this. I know what this, I got this. I understand this. And then you get some new information. You go, well, crap. Now I got to throw that out because that doesn't fit into any hypothesis. And so what happens is people create these hypotheses, and then they try to fit all of the puzzle pieces into the hypotheses. Well, what I have done, and what I've learned to do, taught myself to do over the last year and a half, is think of it this way. Somebody gives you a wrapped box, and you shake the box and you say, well, there's a bunch of little pieces of something in here, okay? And you open up the box, and it's just a plain box. It's just got a cardboard box, no label, no nothing. And you go, okay, it's a box. And then you open up the box, and there's a whole bunch of puzzle pieces in there, all right? And there's like 5,000 pieces. And you look at the box and you go, you turn it over and you look inside, you look all around, there's no picture. You have no idea what these pieces are going to make. And they all have the same cutout. They're the same puzzle pieces. You could stack them all up and they perfectly fit on top of each other. They're the same cutout. And then you go, okay, I am charged with making a picture out of all of these puzzle pieces with no picture to go by. And they all the same size. And that's how I have felt over the last about year in Flat Earth, to the detriment of almost every other bit of research that I have ever done on top of this. Okay. Everything I've learned and known up until now. And I'm got all these puzzle pieces out here, and some of them are upside down. I have to keep turning some over, and well, I don't know, that's red, so that must go over here. And I feel like that's where I'm at, but I'm okay with that. It's like a really cool mystery. If I had a picture, it'd be slam dunk, even though they're all shaped the same shape. You still would have something to go by, and I would be able to know, at least what area this fits in. But with Flat Earth and with, trying to come up with a map and a model and a presentation for where you think you live, it's awe-inspiring as far as I'm concerned. So I've been rambling, and Ronnie dropped out, and I thought he would be back by now, but he has not come back. So he may have crashed. Don't know. That happened to him the last time. So I'm just going to wrap up and say thanks to everyone who was listening tonight, and everyone in the chat for, I hope, behaving yourselves, and I hope you enjoyed chatting with each other. Thanks for a few answers and a few questions that popped in when I had a chance to look. And we'll be back on Wednesday, our normal time. Lawrence will be back with us then, and don't know whether we'll have a guest or not. And Ronnie, if you are listening and just can't get back in here, then I'll chat with you soon. I'm sure we chat very often. So it's Flat Earth Conspiracy Channel, and we have a new trailer on the channel, so I hope you watch it. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, Eastern Standard Time, UTC -4. So bye.